Hello, and welcome to today's APO Productivity Talk. I'm Kentaro Endo from the APO Secretariat based in Tokyo. The APO is an intergovernmental organization promoting productivity, fostering innovation, and enhancing competitiveness in its 21 members in the Asia-Pacific region. The topic today is new tool set for factory productivity. It is essential for factories to improve productivity while maintaining decent working conditions. The ILO released the Factory Improvement Toolset (FIT) as a sustainable, scalable approach to factory upgrading. In this session, Mr. Bodwell, Enterprise Development Specialist (ILO), will introduce key features and learning modules of FIT and how to utilize it in factories. In addition, Mr. Chowdhury, Assistant Secretary General, Bangladesh Employers Federation, will describe pilot FIT introduction in the garment sector. Mr. Bodwell and Mr. Chowdhury, good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Bodwell is the ILO Regional Specialist on Enterprise Development and Entrepreneurship in East and Southeast Asia and the Pacific. His work has centered on creating sustainable approaches for linking job creation and job quality through support to factories, business associations, and national government. Before joining the ILO, he worked at UNIDO. Mr. Chowdhury is Assistant Secretary General, Bangladesh Employers Federation, which stands as an all-country organization representing all sectors of industry and represents nearly 90% of the established employers in the private sector. He engages in preparing private sector views on employment, industrial relations, social and economic policy reform measures. He also identifies, designs, and implements development cooperation projects. For example, he joined sessions on the National Productivity Master Plan. Today, after the presentation, there will be a live question and answer session. Viewers, please post questions with your names and countries in the live chat box, and we will answer as many as time allows. Mr. Bodwell, I'd like to ask you to start your presentation, please.
Very good. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Endo-san, for inviting me here today, as well as the APO, and also the appreciation for all those concerned with productivity across Asia, the national productivity organizations, as well as others, and our partner BEF in Bangladesh, and Mr. Chowdhury for being here today. What I'd like to talk about is the Factory Improvement Toolset. It's a new, scalable, sustainable solution. By that I mean much of what we've done in the past. We run a program, we run it with X number of factories, and when the project ends, that program ends. What we want with this program and the toolset, the way it's designed, is so that it can scale, so that it can go bigger, and it can have impact across the Asia region in terms of factory productivity, but also working conditions and general operations. The tool set is not a training program. That's not what we call it. We really consider it a model for continuously improving factories, for introducing a CI process that lasts beyond the training, that hopefully will change the culture of the organization. Now, to talk about how that works, there's a number of key features that we've designed into it that better fit a factory than many of the programs that I myself have been involved with in the past. For one thing, it's not expert-led. It doesn't depend on people with degrees in industrial engineering. It depends on an activity-based approach through the participants going through and considering their own operations and what kind of improvements are needed. It's grounded in a practical and output-based model. The idea is, I'm sure many of you have seen training programs or taken part in them, where you hear some interesting things, but then you go back to your reality and very little changes. With FIT, we've designed it so that hopefully the factory will come up with concrete changes that they're going to implement within their factory based on what they went through and the discussions they had. It's designed to be time and cost efficient. Many times we've had a hard time getting people to sign up for our training programs because they're 3 days or 5 days. And very few managers can find the time to get out and actually take part in a program like that. With FIT, the modules are 2 to 3 hours so that they can run them, start them before a shift begins, and be on the line halfway through the morning, let's say. So they're time and cost efficient. There's also a flexible delivery model. It's not that FIT has to be run only in factories. It can be run by consultancy firms that are going out to factories. It can be run by training centers that can run a module or 2 in a day at the training center so that it can guide the discussion of participants. But it can also be run in which an organization shares the modules with factories and the factories use them or don't as up to them. So there's different models that can be used, different ways. These we call a tool set because they're tools. The delivery model, the service model, is based on these 3 components. A needs analysis where the factory can consider the areas, the broad range of different things it does within its factory and where it needs help in particular. Implementation, the actual going through and using the tools, and then a measurement and evaluation. What changed? Did it improve? Did it get better? So, and then cycling back and continuing, hopefully, if it's continuous improvement approach that gets adopted, they will go on to other modules and other ideas, or they might even revisit a module at some point through the process. Now, there's a number of individuals and organizations that are involved in the implementation or use of FIT. For one, there's going to be a service provider, an organization that uses the tools to support factories in their area. Now, that could be an employer's organization like BEF. It could be a training center. It could be a government institution. The tools are available broadly. Within those organizations, there should be a facilitator, somebody that's been trained and understands how FIT works. They can work with multiple factories. They need to make sure the factories are following the process the way that it works, that they have the right people involved, that they understand how the training tools work, that they're following up on the things that they said they're going to do. At the factory level, there should be a coordinator. That's somebody that's also learned how this model works, that it's activity-based, that it's participatory, that there's multiple people involved, and the right people. They make sure the factory improvement team meets and that they actually go through the process. Factory improvement team in the factory is a group of individuals. Now, it could be based on a room. If you look at garment factories, they're made up of various rooms, a sample room, cutting room, a stitching room, final inspection and pack. It could be focused on a room within the factory that does a series of these modules. And then the factory might go on, or even in serial, address another room. There could be different members of that team depending on which room. The ILO, of course, is there to help any way we can. And we're there for the service providers and those FIT facilitators when they need advice, when they want us to be present online, helping to make sure the process goes well. The modules themselves, the really core of the program, are 60 at the moment. We're going to have more, 60 modules that review real life situations, leading to a discussion of what the current situation is in a factory and what needs to be done to improve.
Oh, Mr. Bodwell.
Modules. Yes.
The sound is sometimes not stable. So could you put mic closer to your mouth, please? You mean the head?
Yeah, I can lean over a little bit and get closer to it. So participants, is that better?
Okay. Yeah, sound is good, but could you see the camera directly. Could you move?
Move it over. How's that?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Please continue. Thank you.
Sorry. Pardon the technical difficulties. The participants review real-life situations. They go through their own factory and they discuss what needs to be done. So it's not something where you go to a 5S training, come back to your factory and say, oh my goodness, we'll never do that. Hopefully the discussion has been about your factory and what needs to change. The modules are divided each time into 3 different components. A case study, a discussion around their own situation based on a framework that's provided based in the topic, and then action planning, actually coming up with the things they need to do. So we stick with that every time, because once they know how the model works, when they do another module, it'll be very straightforward. They know it's going to be a case study, learn about the topic, come up with action. There's a suite of different components. We have a series of production components, a number on support systems, and a number of modules on working conditions. Now, there are 60 of these. We're not going to review them. What you can see is the production modules go room by room. We put these together with leading specialists in garment making and factory management, so it follows the flow of materials through the factory. The support systems provide more general things. They're not specific to garments. The production ones are. Support systems are more general, and working conditions, of course, are of concern to the ILO and cover areas that we see in terms of how to improve working conditions. Now, like I said, you can see all of these tools when you go to our website. You can download them. I'm not going to go through them one by one. We don't have time. But there's a lot of material, and they're specific to each of the key processes of running a garment factory, while the support systems cover general ideas that most any factory that's doing production needs to be concerned with. The tools provide examples. They don't tell you this is the only production report you can have, but it's one that you can consider against what you've got and see if there's bits that you want to think, let's look at our production report and what can we improve. One of the key concerns throughout the modules is materials. Materials in any production approach that I've been part of are a central component of cost. And you want to be concerned, how do you maximize cost? In fact, in a garment factory, that's material. Making sure you lay it well, making sure you eliminate defects where possible that lead to wastage, and maximizing the productivity of materials. It's not just about productivity of labor. Your biggest cost is often right there in fabric. Planning production, like I said, there's overarching themes, topics, and these are just examples out of some of the guides. So you can see what we're doing. As I said, they're written by some of the leading experts in the garment sector, targeting not your leading edge factory, but your factory that would like to be, the factory that needs to make improvement, where the marginal benefit of change will be greater than a really cutting edge factory that probably already has continuous improvement as part of their operating principles. One of the things that I've seen a lot in factories of all types, in auto parts factories, and electronics factories, as well as in garments, is factory layout. I show this here just to show the practical nature of considering your operations and the flow through the factory. You want to make sure the flow is effective. You want to make sure that it follows the way materials go. Yet factories with legacy systems often are not laid out logically, and they could benefit from consideration like this: machine tools that are still on the floor that aren't being used, materials that go from one side of the factory to the other instead of to the operation next door, those kind of things, those kind of improvements we'd like to see. Like I said, we focus on issues of concern to the ILO, but one of the philosophical angles that I believe in after 30 years of doing this kind of work is good labor practices, good health and safety, and productivity go hand in hand. They really are tied together, and we want factories to see that, to look at ergonomics and realize poor ergonomics is bad for the workers and bad for productivity. The same with health and safety. To improve working conditions, have people use the proper PPE, use the proper procedures, store materials in a way that's not dangerous, etc., so that you don't have worker downtime, you don't have extra costs. Now, one of the key components we highlight is whatever gets managed gets done. You only manage what you measure. Those are truisms of good management practice. If you're not measuring things, you don't know really whether they're getting better or worse. FIT comes with a whole set of monitoring tools that you can adopt into your own system. You can adjust, you can fit for your own needs, but including an assessment tool, baseline survey, post-module surveys that you as trainers can use, worker perception surveys, because you really want to change the attitude of workers through a program like this. You want them to feel like they're part of the organization. End-of-line surveys, so you can see what happens at the end based on the changes you've made, and the opportunity to go back sometime later and see if those changes stuck through tracer surveys. We have guidance tools available for how you use all of these. So there's a range of components that help you run the program, not just training tools or improvement tools, as we prefer to call them, but also these guidance for any organization that's actually using it, as well as guidance for the factories to understand what they're going through and how it works. Now, if you want to see all of this, you can go to this website, learninghub.ilo.org. At Learning Hub, you will find, if you look under that page, you can see training programs. You pick on training programs, and you'll see one of 6 that we have that we've developed here in the region is the Factory Improvement Toolset. If you as an organization are concerned with SMEs, there's a number of other programs there you might want to explore. All of these are based on activity-based learning. We've been in the business of trying to get trainers out of the business of doing all training. That there's ways for organizations to run training without having to develop a network of master trainers and trainers that are quite costly. How do you support communities so that they can self-improve? You look on this website, under training programs, you'll see a range. One of those is the Factory Improvement Toolset. If you go to the Factory Improvement Toolset, you pick on that page, you go to the bottom, you'll see there's all kinds of tools you can download. Now, I should say, you have to register and log in first. That takes about 20 seconds. You have to put in your name, your email, and come up with a password. It's very easy, and you look in the upper right-hand corner, you register and log in, and you can download everything. We have it available in PDF. We have it available in Word. If you want to edit it, you can edit it. You can put your own name on it. The only rule under Creative Commons licensing is you keep our name on it, and you let us know how it's going and what you're doing, and let us know if we can help. That's our goal. Our goal is to share these tools, is to get APO member organizations across the board to be looking at these and be interested in using them. And that's why we're talking to you here today. With that, I don't have anything else to say. I guess Mr. Chowdhury might have a word or two after this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chowdhury, Mr. Bodwell, for your comprehensive and very kind introduction of FIT. So let us move on to the next presentation. Mr. Chowdhury, please start your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, APO, for inviting me. Thank you, Bodwell, and everyone here. As I have been already introduced by Endo, so let's go directly to the presentation. Next slide, please. I will speak on a few words about my organization, that is Bangladesh Employers Federation, and we are the only registered national organization of employers, and we are a member-driven organization. We have 3 category membership, and altogether of all categories of membership, we have more than 9,000 enterprises in our membership role. Next slide, please. Our next slide, please. Our federation is the only representative organization of employers in the country, and we work under the ILO's tripartite constituency. Uh, 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 we work very closely with ILO and other development partners in Bangladesh. We among many of our services and work, we uphold the employer's legitimate interest in all national and international matters concerning the industrial relation issues. Next slide, please. Here you can see that we have been provided various services to our members. I will not go through it. I will just highlight some few issues here. We render expert assistance, advice, and services to member firms and the government. We have role in fixing minimum wage. We promote social dialogue, decent work. We promote social and environmental compliances. We have been providing many capacity building activities on labor law, workplace cooperation, collective bargaining, grievance handling, occupational health and safety, responsible business conduct, and many more. And we nominate representatives for tripartite quasi-judicial legislative policy making board and agencies like labor court, minimum wage board, tripartite consultative council, central fund. We also nominate a representative in organization like National Productivity Organization, Bangladesh Technical Education Board, National Skills Development Authority, and many more. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah. Why Bangladesh Employers Federation get involved with the Factory Improvement Toolset of International Labour Organization? As I said, more than 9,000 enterprises are in our membership role, where most of them are ready-made garment factory. And this ready-made garment sector is very crucial to our national economy. As you can see from the graph, in fiscal year 20, our total export earning was 33.67 billion US dollar, and out of this total, ready-made garment sector export earning was around $28 billion. That means RMG sector contributes more than 83% of our total export earning. So you can imagine how important ready-made garment sector for our economy. Next. Another reason why Bangladesh Employers Federation get involved with the Factory Improvement Toolset. As you know, Bangladesh is going to be graduated from the list of least development countries soon. And once graduated, we will face some challenges. We will lose duty-free, quota-free market access to most of the export destinations. Our trade preference will be reduced. WTO, that means World Trade Organization, will impose more strict trade policy. We will lose some flexible trade policies that we enjoy today as an LDC. Besides, many of you know that the conscious consumerism, that idea, which is growing in the Western countries, especially in Europe and most of our export destination, and which actually putting additional pressure on our enterprises for improving overall working conditions. So to address all those realities and coming challenges, Bangladesh Employers Federation thinks that the productivity improvement is the key solution for our enterprises. That's why we get involved with the Factory Improvement Toolset of ILO. Next. What features attract us to adopt to take off to test Factory Improvement Toolset? attaining higher productivity is a challenge for Bangladeshi enterprises. In traditional training programs, what we see, the improvement initiatives are mostly theoretical basis and are organized in a classroom setting where participants come and join and then go factory with a knowledge that might not fit in with their industry demand. And but in factory improvement toolset, it deals with real life factory situations where participants themselves identify their own improvement areas, work in a small group, exercise on the contents, apply best practices, take decisions together, and make their own action plan for their improvement. And also, the delivery model is quite flexible, and the factory can choose module which require them most. And modules are usually very short, which is 2 hours and a half, and particularly no trainer is required, and it's very cost effective at the factory side. These are the features of factory improvement toolset that attract us to get involved with. Next. The modules are particularly designed for ready-made garment sectors, but it can easily customize for other sector as well. Besides, there are modules on working conditions, which is actually applicable for all kinds of factories. So FIT can be extended to many more sectors here, like leather and footwear, pharmaceuticals, and other export-oriented sector gradually. Next slide, please. So what is next for us actually, and what we are doing right now? We have already selected 7 factories for piloting, and service provider have been trained by ILO, Mr. Bodwell and his team, and 10 facilitator have been trained, and I'm luckily one of them. And we are just about to start the piloting. We have completed all the background process and the things we are ready to implement at the factory level. But Corona is stuck us, and that's why it is we are delaying it for a while. And what we will do, we will observe the result and the impact it creates, and then we will disseminate the best practices rest of the factories of the RMG sector, as well as we will take it to the other sector as well. Next slide, please. So as you know, whether is there any collaboration possible among us or not, just for your information, we have already signed a memorandum of understanding with the National Productivity Organization of Bangladesh on 5th February 2019. And under the memorandum of understanding, we collaborate each other to promote productivity among the industry sectors, particularly in organizing training, seminar, workshop, and programs. National Productivity Organization in Bangladesh is seen quite proactive these days and have taken a good number of initiatives to promote productivity. A national productivity master plan was developed by National Productivity Organization with the help of APO, where Bangladesh Employers Federation was actively involved. And I personally attended several workshop sessions during the formulation process. A National Productivity and Quality Excellence and Institutional Appreciation Award was introduced by the National Productivity Organization of Bangladesh. And we from the private sector, cooperate National Productivity Organization for undertaking this kind of initiatives. We facilitate each other. Yes, since the ILO has the expertise on FIT, National Productivity Organization of Bangladesh is also working on productivity. We may have a tripartite collaboration to promote productivity for achieving required competitiveness for the country and for overcoming the post-graduation challenges. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for listening me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chowdhury, for your presentation. So now let's get started with the questions and answers. Viewers, I encourage you to post your questions with name and country in the YouTube live chat session box. And firstly, I'd like to ask the speakers a few questions myself. First question is to Mr. Bodwell. The situation of factories is diverse in various terms, such as type of production process, size, and organizational structure. So could you elaborate more on how to adjust fit according to the diverse real situation in factories? Mr. Bodwell, please.
Very good. Well, I'd like to first apologize. I've heard that my sound isn't always so good, so I'll try to speak louder and directly into the microphone. In terms of diversity of the factories and diversity of the partners as well, FIT is a tool, a set of tools. It's like a toolbox. You can use it in different ways. Different organizations will use it as an in-class training program. Others will use it as a type of advisory support to go out to factories. It can be done in different ways in that regard. In terms of the tools themselves, if you take a look at them, you'll find that many of them, as I said, the ones that cover production are specific to garments, but the ones that cover management systems, as well as working conditions, those apply to pretty much any type of production facility. And in fact, because they're based on the factories giving their own views, talking about their own factory, all they provide is a model for discussion. So if you're a factory at this level, you can have a discussion at that level. If you're a factory that isn't quite so developed, you find your discussion would be a very different one. But the model would adjust because it's all based on people sitting around a table and talking about how to improve their operation. So it's effective at addressing diversity in that way.
Thank you for a kind explanation. I understand that the fit is flexible enough to be customized into each situation by users and other stakeholders. Thank you for your answers. So my next question is to Mr. Chowdhury. Mr. Chowdhury have talked about the pilot in your country for best of practices. So could you tell us what you hope to get out of the pilot for fit?
Thank you, Mr. Endo. As I said earlier and explained a bit about the pilot project, BEF, my organization, Bangladesh Employers Federation, is concerned that there are literally thousands of factories in Bangladesh that are less developed and would benefit from a low-cost, self-implemented approach to factory improvement. And we would hope to see how FIT can be used. It is flexible in approach, so it could be used by consultants, by training centers, or directly by factories. So we want to understand better from the pilot how we could put it forward.
Okay. Thank you for your answers. So my next question is again to Mr. Bodwell. You introduced FIT as a flexible toolkit, as you explained. So how can FIT be disseminated into other industry sectors than garment sector, or further into other countries?
Very good. Well, first of all, we're open to reaching out to any partner, any organization, preferably ones that are linked to the ILO, employers organizations. Many productivity organizations have a history of working with the ILO on various programs, and we'd be very interested in providing advice or assistance on how you take it up yourself. Starting with, I would suggest taking a look at the tools, taking a look at those support components, the ones that cover things like 5S and production planning, the ones that cover communication skills and working conditions, the introduction to health and safety, and see how they can be used. Any of the organizations on the line today are potential partners that could take a look at these tools and find them quite useful because they're easy, they're designed to be relatively low cost because they can be run in the factories by the factories. Once a factory understands, it's up to you to help them understand how the tools work, and they can take it from there. So you don't have to hold their hand all the way through. Once they're on the continuous improvement process, they can grab additional tools, and you can design your program in a way that is around how to assist them to keep moving forward. So we're like, I think the number one thing is reach out to us if you're interested, and we'll be happy to talk to you.
I see. Thank you. So the next question is to Mr. Chowdhury. I felt that the coordination among stakeholders is the key to facilitate introduction of FIT. So how do you think will the collaborations among the ILO, BEF, and the NPO be further deepened?
Yeah, thank you. A good question. And as I said earlier, we have a MOU with the National Productivity Organization in Bangladesh, and we are cooperating each other in promoting productivity in the country. And based on the memorandum of understanding, the collaboration will be further developed in future by disseminating the best practices cultivated in the pilots. I think a tripartite collaboration with the National Productivity Organization, ILO, and BEF may be a good option for us all, for all of us, to enhance required level of productivity and competitiveness. That is very important for our country to face the challenges that we are going to face after post-graduation of the country. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind answers. So now we have questions from viewers. So, the first question is to Mr. Bodwell, I think. This is the question from Mr. Mohanty. Thank you for your question. The question is how we will have access to these tools to teach to students in universities. The question is about how can people use these tools to teach at the university. This is a question. So I'd like to ask Mr. Bodwell to respond to this question.
Well, I really appreciate Mr. Mohanty's question because we do a lot of with schools, with universities around the region. In fact, our business training program, Know About Business, is present in more than a dozen countries in Asia, being used by the Ministry of Education. That's a business training approach. FIT, to train on how to understand how a factory works, I think would be very suitable for adaptation. It would require some changes to make it so that it targets students versus a specific factory. But I think the base is right there. And I think the activity-based approach is really well suited to schools. Now, how do you access it? The tools are all online and they're all open source. I want to emphasize that, open source. The materials are available in English. We've got it now in Khmer, in Bengali, in Chinese. We're going to have it in more languages. And if anybody, the only requirement would be if any of you translate the tools to another language, you share them back to us so that we can put them online. We want anybody to download these. Our whole business, we see our job as tool makers. We're not tool users, we're not tool trainers. We share them to people like those here today who can train with them. and that includes for universities. So all you have to do is go to the website, download, look at the tools, download the ones that you find interesting, and see how they can be used in a university setting. And if you have questions or you want to discuss that, I've done a lot of work with schools, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your response. And I just move on to the next question, also from viewers. This is a little bit specific question from Mr. Carlito Impas. And the question is, specifically, how the furniture industry in the Philippines could adapt the fit. This is about the furniture industry in the Philippines. So, maybe Mr. Bodwell, please.
Very good. Again, Mr. Impas, a good question and very interesting one for me. I did quite a bit of work in the Cebu area with housewares, including furniture. And the ILO's been running a furniture program in Vietnam for almost a dozen years. These tools, as I said earlier, a big chunk of the tools are specific to garments. But some of the most important things with regard to the furniture sector are addressed within those support component modules. So if you go there, you'll see things like production control, materials handling, production planning, basic health and safety. You've got major issues within the health and safety area for the furniture sector. So if you look at any of those, and then you again, I keep saying, come back to us. We'd be glad to give you some advice on what we do and how it might work for you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Impas also asking the question about how to measure the success of it. You said it is a scalable tool. So could you focus on how to measure the success of it? So, Mr. Bodwell.
Yeah, well, I look at any of these programs from an ILO perspective. Our success is based on a number of things. On the scale of the impact that we have, we're not cheap. We're an international organization. It doesn't make sense for us to work with a handful of factories. We really would like to see some big numbers. So I would measure success of our program by how many organizations we're able to assist. I'd measure it at the enterprise level on the changes, the changes in productivity, the changes in quality of the products that are coming out, on the reduction in wastage or materials or other resources that you use. Those are the keys. So within the program, each module has KPIs. So as you look at the module, you'll see right in the beginning, we suggest key performance indicators you would want to check. And what we'd like to see is organizations that use it push the enterprises they're supporting, the factories they're supporting, to actually use those measures and report back to them on whether there were changes. I can tell you from past programs that we've run, it's almost 33% do absolutely nothing. 33% make good changes, but they're not groundbreaking. But a third of those factories, they make dramatic, when they buy into a program like this, they make dramatic changes in quality and productivity and cost. And you want to capture that. As an organization, we want to capture it because we want to be able to tell those that pay for it that we're worth it.
Okay, so there are some questions from viewers. So let's move on to another question from Mr. Apalus Rami. His question is that they implemented so-called score in Mauritius, which proved to be a very interesting methodology to improve productivity. And how can we adapt this fit or score to our tourism sector, which is highly affected by the COVID? So, Mr. Bodwell, please.
Well, I like hearing that question. I started with the UN in 1991, and it was with a factory program in Africa. We called it the TQM Awareness Program, and it pushed many of the same principles that APO supports in terms of measurement, in terms of continuous improvement. And when I left that UN organization and moved to the ILO, I started SCORE. I started SCORE based on what I learned at UNIDO. And so it's nice to hear a program that I developed 20 years ago has had an impact in Mauritius. FIT is grounded in the same principles as SCORE. It comes out of the same ideas. The difference is we realized that if we're going to get scale, we had to come up with tools with the same basis: continuous improvement, systems approach, measurement, workplace engagement, that could be implemented by the factories directly themselves. And so FIT comes from SCORE, comes from the same base. How do you address it to tourism? I would say if you go to our website, Learning Hub, and you look at the SBC tools, Small Business Competitiveness Tools, that's one of the 6 families of tools there along with FIT. SBC is specific to tourism. You'll find guest house, homestay, market vendors, handicraft makers, small transport companies. We have a range of tools there that are all grounded in the same methodology. Activity-based learning, people sitting around who run those different tourism sectors and can self-improve. We also have a module there called Destination Management, which is for a community to sit down and decide what they have to do if they want to be a better tourism provider. So I think there's a lot of interesting materials there for your consideration.
Thank you for your comprehensive answers. So the next question from viewers is to Mr. Chowdhury. This question is from Mr. Samuel Rosa from the Philippines. Mr. Chowdhury, how was your experience in piloting? Specifically, how long did it take for pilot areas to register improvements in productivity? This is a question to Mr. Chowdhury. Chowdhury, please.
Thank you very much for your question. In my deliberation during the presentation, I have explained that we have completed all the preparations to start the pilot, but this Corona period stuck us not to implement right now. We have finished the backward all preparations, but we cannot start due to this COVID in Bangladesh. So perhaps Bodwell may also add with any in response to this question, if.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think we could actually almost go back to the gentleman from Mauritius and ask him about the furniture sector. Some changes, as soon as you run the module and make a change, can lead to productivity. You make that change, you see an improvement immediately by that change. The longer overall measurement of the system, the program, by the end of the program, if you ran, let's say you decided you're going to run 20 of the modules, and you're going to do that over a 4 or 6 month period, by the end of that 4 or 6 month period, you would see major changes in the factory. You would see major changes in productivity. You'd see the factory look different. That's one of the things that I learned with SCORE, and that I think we'll see with FIT as well. When management buys into a program like this and they really commit and they start running the changes, you very quickly see the factory more ordered, more systematic, and just different, a better factory. And like I said, I've seen that happen roughly with about a third of the factory. That's a very rough estimate, but about a third of the factories we work with, management gets it, they buy in and they commit, and then you see change.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is from Ms. Radiana from Malaysia Productivity Corporation. Our question is, how long the changes impact can be measured from the start of the implementation phase? So maybe Mr. Bodwell, could you respond to this?
It's along the same lines as the last point. I think some measures, one of the challenges we face when we work with programs with factories that really need development is often they don't even have measures. So you get in, do they have any inline inspection where they're capturing quality defects? No, they don't. They might not even really keep measures of end-of-line defects. They just rework stuff and fix it and eventually get it out the door. So there's no measurements in place at the start of one of these programs. And a real measurement of improvement is the fact that by the time the program ends, they're actually measuring productivity and quality. But beyond that, I think it really depends on the change you're making. Some changes take time. Let's say the change is in terms of a measurement of worker commitment to the factory and worker perceptions. That might take several months for them to really start to believe that the situation has changed in the factory. On the other hand, you might run a module that leads to a quality change that as soon as you've implemented those changes, you've got serious improvements in quality. So it really depends on the change you're looking at.
Okay, thank you so much. And I really appreciate viewers posting many questions so that this session can be a very interactive one. So thank you very much. And so the both of speakers, do you have any questions each other?
I think it's okay.
Well, I would like to ask Mr. Chowdhury how we take this further, because I really would like to go. My roots, I grew up in Detroit in the auto sector. I put myself through school working on computers. What can we do with BEF outside of garments?
Okay, thank you, Bodwell, and also thank you. We already started working together. You have trained us to take it forward in the industry sector, so we are already working on it. Yes, we may further work closely to extend this program to other sector as well, seeing the result of RMG sector. Let's work together, and of course, NPO Office of Bangladesh will also cooperate, I guess, since they are promoting this productivity among the country. They are very active right now. So what my personal observation, because almost every month I have to attend any meetings organized by this NPO office on various issues. So they are quite active. We can together work. With the help of ILO, we can extend it further. Thank you.
Can I just add? I would really like to see that, how we can partner with NPO. The ILO was involved in many of these national productivity centers, establishment. Very often they're very closely aligned with the principles that we have about workers, managers, all working together on productivity issues. So if NPO was interested, we'd certainly be happy to talk a little bit further about what we can do.
Okay. Thank you for your lively discussions. We are almost out of time, and I'd like to wrap up today's session. This was a wonderful productivity talk with Mr. Bodwell and Mr. Chowdhury. Once again, I'm grateful to you both, and would like to ask each of you to give concluding remarks to our viewers. So first, Mr. Bodwell, please.
Very good. Well, I first of all just want to say thank you to the APO Secretary, Mr. Endo, for leading this discussion, Mr. Chowdhury for being our partner in Bangladesh and taking this forward. FIT is a tool set. It is not an overall program. The overall program is what you do with it. And we really would hope that organizations take a look at it, download, figure out what they might be interested in, and if interested, get back to us and let us know what we can do to support you. So that's all I've got for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your message. And then next, Mr. Chowdhury, please.
FIT modules, as I said, are based on real-life factory situation. So, and it is also activity-based and participant-driven. What should I say? Output-oriented, and also has a flexible delivery model and time and cost efficient. So it may be a potential solution for improving productivity of our enterprises. And at the I like to thank the APO whole team, Mr. Endo, Mr. Taufi, and everyone for supporting me and cooperating me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your inspiring message. We really appreciate your time today. I would also like to thank all the viewers who are joining us. The APO will continue to share information and ideas through productivity talks and other online digital platforms. Please subscribe to the APO YouTube channel if you haven't already. We look forward to seeing you again soon. In the meantime, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care and goodbye for now.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.